In Server 2012 R2, we're going to have a lot of the same configurations. So if you want to copy and paste your documentation, for those who are doing electronic copy, that's great. If you're doing handwritten, you can refer parts of that to there. The configuration at the end is going to be just a little bit different. So I'm going to create a new virtual machine. So I'm going to do File, New Virtual Machine. Again, use a custom options, staying with VMware Workstation version 12. Installing the operating system later. I will be changing this version here, though, to 2012. And then making sure I'm identifying it as Windows Server 2012 and putting the proper folder. So I'm going to browse to my portable drive, go to my server admin 1 Tuesday, make a new folder called 2012, and make sure that those look appropriate. Clicking next, I'll keep the firmware BIOS, 1 processor, 2 gigs of RAM, a network address translation network, keeping your I/O controllers and hard drives all the same. It does increase the drive. If you remember, in the 2008 R2, it's at a 40 gig drive. 2012 is a little bit bigger, so it ups it to 60 gigs. We're not going to use anywhere near it, but that's the default. I will store as a single file. You can go ahead and click Next. Keep the default name for the virtual machine hard drive, so that's all the same, and then click Finish. That's identical other than the name as we did with Windows 10 and with Server 2008. We'll also install the CD-ROM by clicking on the CD/DVD icon or link. Use an ISO image file, browse, for Windows Server 2012 R2. Make sure you're running 2012 R2. If you've downloaded just 2012, it's going to look different. Windows 2012 is equivalent to Windows 8. Server 2012 R2 is equivalent to Windows 8.1. And if you're familiar with the two interfaces, they are different. So we'll go ahead and open that and click OK and power on the virtual machine. You come up with the same default Windows setup screen with using English and a US keyboard. Clicking Next. The Install Now button should look pretty familiar by now. I only have 2 versions of Windows Server now. Before I had Standard, Enterprise, Data Center, and then Web. They've gotten rid of Web, and they've really gotten rid of Standard. The Standard here is equivalent to the Enterprise. So you have the Standard and Data Centers. These are not as different as the previous versions of Windows. They really have the same functions and features. It really comes down to a licensing thing. For Standard Edition, you're able to have 2 Hyper-V virtual machines, which is Windows virtualization system. With Data Center, you can have unlimited Hyper-V virtual servers running on top of that. We're going to use the Standard Edition, but if you catch this, they've swapped the GUI and the core around. The default is now the core. So if you chose all the defaults, you're going to restart the server. You're going to start up the server and end up with a blinking cursor. We're not quite ready for that yet. We want to choose the server with GUI. You can grab the little break in the bar, the title bar, to scroll it over just to confirm it. But we're going to use the standard evaluation server with a graphical user interface. We're not ready for just the command prompt. We have advisory people come in, which are industry. They come in and talk to us and say what we should be teaching and things. None of them use server core on any of their servers. They use the graphical user interface on everything. Definitely advantages of it, just not quite widely accepted yet. So we're going to choose Next. Read the license agreement, because this is different than our 2008 R2. Once again, by default, it says upgrade, and the custom install is the one that you use for actually installing a clean version. So we're going to choose the advanced install, which is the clean install, and it chooses our 60 gig hard drive, and we click next. And it's going to copy the files. We're going to use our same special password. And then we're going to click finish.
I kind of figured that one.
And then you click finish and finalize setting. Unlike 2008 brought us right in after we changed the password. Here they changed the password and now making you log in. So it's an extra step. Make sure you're using Control-Alt-Insert and then doing our password. Using our same initial same steps, we want to take out the CD-ROM and we want to install drivers. So to do that, I'll go ahead and click yes. If you ever get this screen, it says do you want to basically allow discovery enabled. If you miss it, it's one of those ones that are going to go away. It's not a big deal. It'll come up some other time, and then you'll just have to say yes at that point. You'll notice there's no initial configuration tasks that come up. That's been gotten rid of, and only Server Manager launches automatically. And we'll take a look at this part. They incorporated this all into Server Manager now, but we're still going to put this on the side. We're going to get back to this. What we do want to remove the CD-ROM, so we go up to the VM and then Settings. Click on the CD-ROM and then change it back to physical. We don't want to be connected to that ISO image. The second thing we want to do also is to install VMware Tools. This will insert the driver CD into your virtual CD, and it will come up with a little pop-up dialog box that says, hey, something was inserted, what do you want to do with it? 2008, it stayed there until you closed it. In Windows 2012 and Windows 10 and so on, it goes away. So it's like, oh no, what do? I can't get to it. No, it's still a CD in your DVD drive. You just can access it using your File Explorer. So if you miss the dialog box, a little pop-up, you can access it through your File Explorer. It's on your D drive. Here's your C drive. Here's your D drive. If you click on it, double-click on it, it's going to basically do an auto run. It's going to wait for it. It too launches in the background. So if you notice your taskbar, it is blinking down the taskbar, so you can click on it to bring it to the foreground. So don't wait for it forever. Just realize that it's just sort of hanging out in the background. Click next, next, and install. It's doing your updated drivers, including your video driver. When it's done, we're going to want to restart. Okay, so now we're going to do our initial configuration, all those things like activating Windows, changing the computer name, IP addressing, and so forth. So I'm going to hit Control-Alt-Insert to log in, use my special password.
I use password.
It does launch Server Manager automatically, but it brings all those configuration tools right into Server Manager, so it's not a separate tool anymore. I do like making this maximum size, but it does have a number. It actually numbers them. Hey, this is step 1, step 2, step 3. So step 1 is to configure this local server. Step 2 is adding the roles and features, and then 3 and 4, we can maybe get to later on. We spent a lot of time in 1 and 2. But to begin with, we start with 1. And now it comes up with a screen that's very, very similar concept-wise as what the initial configuration tasks were. And that it shows you the different things like computer name and Ethernet IP addressing, time zone. The reason I maximize this is because by default, you don't see the whole screen. And you might scroll up and down, but you may not scroll left and right. And it's very easy to miss the time zone. And that's pretty important to have time settings correct. So that's why I like maximizing it to make sure I see all the settings. You can go right down the list again. This is a little bit different order than the ICT had it. But so here it starts with the computer name. So if you click on the computer name, it still just brings up the system properties. Still don't type in the description. The description is not going to do anything. Make sure you click the change button. We do want to name this 2012, and we do have to put a -1 in there to make it comply. Cool. So after I change the computer name, I click OK. And I click OK again, and then close, and then I do want to restart. You could wait until later. I'm just restarting now so that I don't forget anything. It's pretty fast for restarting, so just take the extra moment. Control-Alt-Insert. Type in our special password correctly. And Server Manager launches automatically. Unlike the initial configuration tasks, if I close this by mistake, I don't have to do some kind of obscure sequence of codes in the command prompt. I have the icon right down here. That is Server Manager. You'll also have underneath the Start button, you'll have this Administrative Tasks, Administrative Tools tile. If you click on that, you're going to see all the different things that are related to that server management. So it's kind of like going through the menus or working with Server Manager. You also have Server Manager within Administrative Tools. So it's really easy to get back into Server Manager if you do exit out. I'm going to go back in to configure this local server though. I only started out with the computer name. And here's the work group. Windows Firewall we're not doing anything with. The next thing we're going to work with is the IP addressing. Same thing here. As I click on it, it just brings me to my network adapter, knowing how to statically assign a Windows computer. Right click, go to Properties, TCP/IP version 4. If you notice, the protocols and devices are in different orders in different versions of Windows, so be careful of what you're choosing. Clicking Properties, saying I'm going to choose a static address. Make sure I tap the numlock key if I haven't before. 192.168.118.11 is going to be the static address for this server. On networks, the gateway 118. The default gateway is the same for all devices on that network, and so is going to be the DNS servers. Continuing the next list over here, Windows updates, or when the last time it was installed or never. This is something that you definitely would do. We just don't have to do that right now. Looking down here, the next thing I want to change is the time zone. If I click on the time zone, I get the same date and time configuration tool. So I click Change Time Zone, go down to US Central Time, click OK. Double click, check the time, and the time is wrong. It's not 5 o'clock. I certainly hope it's not 5 o'clock. So I'm going to change the date and time. It is 3 o'clock. So double checking the time down the corner. It's January 31st at 3 p.m. And my time zone, I did change it. Oh, now it took a second. I was going to show you this. Sometimes configurations take a while to refresh on here. Windows Server 2012 is just really, really slow for updating. They built in a refresh button right up on top because it is so slow and can be very confusing. Click this often. When you make changes, just kind of click it to make sure that you have everything updated, that you're seeing everything updated. It really is updated in the background, but you want to see that it's updated. I have roles and feature. Let me just browse this a little bit. Server Manager is a little bit different in here. I'll start with the dashboard, and then I can go to roles and features. And instead of having a different roles and different features area, it's kind of all into one wizard. I can click next, and then we'll go through this much more detail next week. But here are the roles that you can install. If you want to install something, you just check it. If you want to choose a couple things, you certainly can. When you click next, it brings the list of features. So they really go hand in hand. I'm going to roll roles and features all in the same sequence if you want to. Just like in Server 2008, I have a lot of tools they can access right within Server Manager, but those tools are also available through the administrative tools under the Start button, administrative tools. They're the same list. Anyways, they are. As I add roles and features, it adds the tools to this list that I need to use for those things, such as Active Directory or DHCP tools or DNS or whatever. And so this list will always be changing on different servers depending on what's installed on them. This also has PowerShell on it. Down here in the lower left-hand corner, it's the same icon, the same idea and same concept. To get out of PowerShell, you can click on the red X or just type exit. That's about it for Server 2012. I'm going to shut down. If I click on it, I have a little power button up in the upper right-hand corner. Another way of getting to it is I can right-click on the Start button and I can do a shutdown or sign out. However you want to do it, when you want to shut down, it does want to know whether it's planned or unplanned or what the issues are, but it doesn't make you type in anything. You can just go ahead and click continue to shut down.
What if it was a planned shutdown? Would it have like a text box that give you a reason why?
Mm-mm.
No?
After it's shut down, I can go up to VM again and take a snapshot and call it a base image snapshot. And now I have another machine that I can go back to at any time, no matter what happens to this machine.